Hello, Final Two, and hello, jury. Tonight, you will be deciding between either Patrick or Robbie to win the system Weirdmageddon. Because Patrick won the final chamber this season, he will be making his opening speech first, followed by Robbie. It will go in the same order for the closing speeches. So Patrick will make his closing speech first. Robbie will go second. Each of them will have 5 minutes for each speech. On top of that, the jury, each of you will have 5 minutes to ask Patrick and Robbie any questions you may want. You can make a stand, whatever you want to do during those 5 minutes. Just please no nudity. Other than that, the final two, we're going to set the clock right now for 5 minutes. And once I do that, it will be Patrick going first. And so, Patrick, when you're ready, your time starts in 3, 2, 1, begin.
All right. So I want to start off first off by thanking everyone who played. I think especially now more than ever, we were all kind of looking for a distraction from the real world, and having you guys put in as much as you did and being able to put in as much as I did really meant a lot and helped keep me sane throughout this. But that's sappy junk. Let's get to the main crux of my game. I think the best word to describe my game would be opportunity. I had opportunities that I made for myself. I had opportunities thrust at me that I had to handle and adapt to. And I had opportunities that I made but decided I didn't need and ended up not moving forward with. We'll start off with the opportunities that I carved out for myself. I won 4 missions this season. That's the most in any season of the system ever. I'm really proud of that. More importantly to me, those 4 missions, 3 of them were crucial. 3 of them were when I felt at my most vulnerable. So one of them was the live night, where I won 15 prisms, everyone else won 5. And from discussions, it became pretty clear that I would be able to influence that chamber to be exactly what I wanted it to be. And that's what I did. Second one was the mission right after live night. Again, you might remember the first chamber of live night I was in. So I had plenty of reasons to feel vulnerable, and I wanted that extra little bit of currency and that extra little ability to make things happen. And the last one, of course, was the final chamber. I knew that the odds of getting that 15-minute penalty on me if I wasn't first were pretty high. I didn't want to take any chances there, so I really had to give it my all. And that involved a lot of studying for ciphers throughout the day, doing the morning cryptograms in the newspaper all season long, working on a puzzle the entirety of quarantine. So a lot of transferable skills. That being said, prisms are one side of things, but this isn't a survivor game. Right? There's no mechanism where you can keep yourself safe automatically. There's no immunity. There's no idols. You have to rely on your social game. And I think I played that pretty well as well. Robbie, Jake, and I had a very solid trio from about mid-game, maybe a little earlier on till the end. At one point, Matty O was also in that group. He was brought in through open distrust between himself and myself. I didn't trust Matty. Matty didn't trust me. I think it was pretty obvious. I wasn't prepared to take a swing at him, but when his name came up into the chamber, I saw an opportunity. There were conversations going around to take Bailey out at that point. I viewed it as threat management in a way, because by keeping Bailey in, I kept a bigger threat around. I kept someone else who would very clearly always be the target before I was. It also helped me get in a bit tighter with Felix, who I leaked the plan to with the idea that he would be the one voting Maddie out. And it got rid of someone who I didn't feel had my back nearly as much as I needed to. It also had the benefit of reinforcing the alliance I had with Robbie and Jake and made us a nice, solid, cohesive unit. I didn't lean on that trio exclusively, though. I also reached out to every single one of you, except for Grace, with Game Talk. I had a working relationship with every one of you. And I think that was important to leave myself as many opportunities as possible, because if something went sideways one place, I had a backup plan. And I had a backup plan to that backup plan if everything else failed. But I think between what I did to set myself up with as many prisms as possible, with my social game and keeping a few options open here and there, and also the fact that I had 2 journals played against me, and a third one indirectly caused me to get 7th place in a mission instead of 2nd. So I had a lot to adapt to this game. And I painted myself using those in the light of maybe someone who had fewer connections, maybe someone who was a bit less tied down, someone who you could pull in and use for your own purposes. That was by design. I figured that the less threatening I seemed, the less likely it would be that I'd be tossed into the chamber. And I ended up only going into the chamber twice. both times near the end game when the numbers were dwindling down. So I hope that is enough to give you a general idea of my game. I'll be glad to talk about anything else you'd like me to talk about. And I think that in closing, we all played somewhat similar games as far as trying to keep information tight to the chest and as far as not giving up more than we had to. And I hope that you're able to respect the way I played mine as well as I respect the way you all played yours. Thanks.
All right. Thank you, Pat. Next, Robbie. When you're ready, just unmute and
All right.
you may begin.
All right. So, hey, everyone. So I kind of wanted to just dive right into the kind of opening that I wanted to have for myself. That doesn't necessarily include outlining every single move that I made in the game, but rather highlight all of the ups and downs that happened to me personally and affected how I played the game. I'm not a newbie when it comes to orgs. Okay, I've been around the block. I've played plenty of games. But you know what? I've never won. I have in my head all the makings of a winner, but when push comes to shove, I'm either taken out for being a threat or I just fail to showcase the type of player that I think I am. This game was so different for me in so many aspects, aside simply from the format, which I think somehow we're all still trying to figure out. I'm usually a dive-in head-first type of player, forming alliances right off the bat, relying heavily on my social game because I know that's where my strengths lie. And this game, I was sort of forced to adjust my strategy for a few reasons. One, because I knew that the more information you gave people in the system, the easier it would be for them to use it against you. Adam, I can't tell you how many times you told me things, and I said to myself, damn, I could really use this against him later on at some point if I needed to. But instead of running back to Jake or Pat, I sat on a lot of information that you gave to me. You knew you were a threat. I didn't have to help other people see that. So you gave me insight to things like journals that you kept finding, and I was able to keep that under wraps and use it to my advantage. For example, throwing a couple of challenges because I knew that you were going to be reversing the order of the results. Allie, there were so many times where you and Bailey and Felix would tell me things that I would keep in my back pocket and wait for the perfect time to tell Jake or Pat or Adam because I knew ultimately I had to keep this middle ground game that I was playing as strong as possible. I did find myself in danger a couple of times by being in the chamber a few. But to be honest with you, anytime I was in the chamber, it wasn't a big panic for me because I felt so confident in the bonds that I had with the people that I trusted. And I always thought there was somebody that was going to be a bigger threat than myself to take out at that point. And lastly, what I kind of wanted to just touch on a little bit, as you all know, I suffered a pretty large personal loss in the middle of this game. And that threw me back further than I ever anticipated it to. I wanted to give up. I know that anybody in that situation probably would have felt the exact same way. But the support that I got from every single one of you, production or otherwise, kept me in this game. Because I knew had I walked away, I would have left a support system and I would have isolated myself at a time in the world when, you know, that's really all that we're doing anyways. And that's not how I wanted to cope with this loss. I struggled with even bringing this up to you guys. But the fact of the matter is this was a very real situation that happened to me and it shaped the second half of my game. I turned into the listener. I checked in when I needed to. I listened to what the group wanted and I did what I felt necessary. And a lot of the times what I felt necessary was sitting on my prisms and doing what I could to protect my ratio and doing as much as possible to take in all the information and form it into my own personal game at the end. In regards to Pat, he's an amazing player. I think we all recognize that. I wish him the best of luck. There's no bad ending tonight, in my opinion. Pat and I joked about the fact that we wish that we maybe even hated each other because it would have been a little bit more cutthroat probably, but I feel like we'll still probably get into some of that in a few minutes. But thank you, that's it, and best of luck to you, Pat.
All right. So with that, final two, your speeches are done. Adam, are you able to go now or do you want to wait until a little later?
I can go now because my power and everything is actually working. Okay.
All right. So let me count you down. Your time starts now.
All right. Congrats, you two. I'm so super proud of both of you. When I got out, I kind of had a feeling that you two were going to be the final two sitting there. And I'm really happy that you are the final two who are sitting there. I know both of you can't deny that you have definitely played more under the radar games. But my thing that I want to know is how was your game more under the radar and not you just like going through with the motions and just coasting and sliding by? Like, what was your, like, if you had like your quintessential thing like that you did, your big move, so to say, what would that be to show that you weren't just going along with everyone else? Yeah, Pat. Yes, yeah. Sorry, Patrick, you can start.
Okay. I think I touched on it a little bit in my opening statement. My big move this game was cutting off Matteo. I think that he was someone who was playing a very sneaky game and someone who I didn't trust to have my back when push came to shove. Admittedly, there were a few people like that, but I think Matteo was the one who had the most capacity to bite me down the line. So I indirectly took him out by leaving the plan to Felix. That was something that not even Robbie or Jake were in on. That was exclusively my move. And I think that it was important for my game. It ended up taking a bit of an unexpected turn when Felix quit. But despite that, I still think that it improved my game and really made it my own in a way that I don't think anyone else can claim on that particular move.
So I talked a little bit about what the second half of the game looked like for me. But the first half of the game really was shaped for myself personally by things that I did. For example, I was thrust into a situation where I was in an alliance without even being asked with Allie, Bailey, and Felix. I woke up to this alliance from a nap. And although I trusted Allie, I had no working relationship with Bailey, and I had no working relationship with Felix at the time. So I did what I felt was necessary, and that was informing the people that I wanted to work with, Pat, Adam, Jake, about the alliance that was created to make sure that they knew that I wasn't just playing a double agent, but that I was going to be the agent for them. I wanted you guys to be aware of situations that were going on because although I knew it would be beneficial to me, it's not how I wanted the game to work. So I created my own path by creating these other alliances on top of having this other group of people that were still giving me information. And I think that really shaped the first half of my game big time. It helped me gather intel from both sides and either sit on it or use it to my advantage. And I think I did a pretty good job of that.
All right. Well, you both answered my question very well. I am sitting here still not sure exactly what I'm going to do. I kind of have an idea, but just make sure you guys are like, for me, my vote's still up in the air. So keep on answering these questions to the best of your ability. Really dive into what your game was. That's all. Good luck to both of you. Congrats.
All right. Thank you, Adam. So next jury member would be Allie. So Allie, you can take the stage. Once you're ready, I'll start your time.
Okay. I have questions for both of you, but I guess I'll start with Pat because his is first on my phone. Okay. Pat, you played a very strategic, social, and dynamic game, and we were really close the entire season. But would you have taken me to the end, or would you have cut me at a certain point?
I would have cut you, Allie, without a second thought. And I said this to many people throughout the season. I still stand by it. If you were sitting in my spot right now, it doesn't matter who you were up against, you would have won because you overcame so much adversity in the early part of the game.
Okay. All right, and Robbie, for a majority of the game, you said people weren't telling you a whole lot of info besides Bailey, Felix, and myself. What do you think your smartest move was, and why did you keep Pat over me when I had your back the whole time, and he could obviously easily win because he played one of the best games of the season?
I agree in the fact that possibly cutting Pat over you would have been a better decision. My reasoning for doing it in that moment came down to the fact that the game had changed for me at that point, and it was at that point going to be about making sure that the people that I put the most trust in were going to continue to work with me and just keep building on that trust. And I know that you definitely had my best interest at heart, but I know that I wasn't your number one. I know that I wasn't your number two. I also don't even really know if I was your number three. I know you were close with Bailey, Pat, and Grace even. And so in my head, I was like, listen, Allie will take me as far as she can, whereas Pat is gung-ho to the end for me. So in a similar aspect, like I kind of recognized the type of game you were playing and decided to go with Pat and Jake instead in that moment. Was that all of your question? Did you have another part of it? I'm sorry.
And I also had the smartest move one for you.
Let me see. So the smartest thing I did in this game, I think, was biting my tongue a lot of the times, especially during the Maddie vote when Maddie ended up leaving. I knew firsthand that Pat and Maddie did not trust each other, even though I tried to make that relationship work because it would have benefited me. So as soon as it happened, there was no doubt in my mind that Pat had something to do with it. But I decided to keep my mouth shut. I decided to play differently than I had before and just kind of sit on this information and kind of see how it was going to progress. And if push came to shove and I had a chance to take a shot at Pat, I would have considered doing that too at the time. Like I said, things changed drastically for me at a certain point in this game, but I definitely know that I played a very different game than I'm used to, and that has a lot to do with reflecting on information instead of just jumping to conclusions.
All right, well, that's all I had, but good luck to both of you. I think I know what I'm going to do, but it's a little up in the air as well. So good luck and congrats.
All right, thank you, Allie. Next, Grace, you're up.
All right. Hey, finalists. And also, we stand that both finalists are hashtag Team Taurus members. So we stand that. So my question, I don't have any individual questions for you two. My question is a joint one that I want an answer that from both of you, and that was I observed it when I got in the jury, and I'm definitely seeing it in the speeches. You guys had many relationships with many people. However, I am someone who didn't have that type of connection with, and I just want to know, I just want to know more on that. Like, and I would go around and make my rounds to every person. Hey, what do you guys been here? And I was here. Oh, it's so quiet. I wouldn't hear anything. But now I'm seeing there was more strategy involved. I'm just curious why I was never a part of it.
I can go first this time if you want me to, Pat. Hey, Grace. So for me personally, you and I had the whole checking in with each other thing down to a science pretty much for the first portion of this game. Just kind of checking in and doing the whole, what are you hearing? I'm not hearing a lot kind of thing. For me personally, I had the assumption that you were working very closely with people like Adam and Allie. So I kind of felt that they already had information that I was getting, and I didn't necessarily need to get it directly from you. I also had a feeling that you were being a lot more cautious with the information you were giving people anyways. And by the time that the game really got heavy, I didn't know if you and I had the personal connection to where you would even trust me if I came to you and said, hey, I have a plan. How do you feel about this? I feel like you were a little bit of a victim of circumstance in that aspect because I was able to work with other people and make sure that by proxy, you were getting the information that I was giving to them. For example, Adam and Allie, I could tell them things that I knew would get back to you, or vice versa. So it does suck because it does feel like I neglected you a little bit in this game. I did see your worth. There were a couple of times where I know that you did things that actually saved your ass from going into the chamber. And I thought it was really awesome. So that's just kind of where everything else was. It was just a matter of balancing everything. And I feel like had I added you to that too, it would have just been even messier for me in the end.
So I'll kind of, I won't give the full cop out and say exactly the same. What I will say is that a lot of the times, Grace, I think that you and I both tried to reach out to each other and it just was not working. You're much more of a call person. I'm much more of a text person. So we had that sort of barrier of communication to begin with. But also as the game progressed, I think our games started diverging, and I'll fully take ownership of the fact that I was pretty neglectful of our relationship as well. In large part, it was because I felt like I would never be your priority in the same way that Ali and Adam were. And both of them were people that I knew if I wanted any shot at making the end, I had to take out sooner than later. I wasn't sure I could trust you to be in on that, so that's why you fell by the wayside in my plans.
All right. That's all I have to ask you guys. Guys, hear the answers and hearing everything else. My vote, I came in leading on something, but now I'm in the air right now. I'm not gonna lie, I'm in the air. So I can't wait to hear the rest of y'all's answers, and may the best person win.
All right, thank you, Grace. Nick, you're up to bat.
Oh, hang on. Sorry. I forgot. No nudity. My bad. Okay. So, naturally, I'm going to have to take a shot before we do anything. Yeah, wasn't super happy when I went out. I feel like you guys could probably tell that. I have now calmed down. However, that doesn't mean I'm going to be nice. I have questions for you. I need to know, and I kind of want to see, just what you guys are like really thinking. So I'm going to start with Robbie. You say that my front half of my game, my back half of my game, my front half of my game, my back half. To me, it sounds like this front half of the game that you're describing, is honestly really good. You got me hook, line, and sinker. This back half, you're basically telling me you started to float. I understand the reason why. I get it. I do. Help me understand why your second half of the game wasn't just you floating along.
So you hear the word floater, and I get that it has bad connotations, but I think a big part of why floating is okay at some aspects of this game is because when you start to give away so much information that can be used against you, it can really turn into a negative thing. So I tried my best to turn a negative situation into a positive situation by taking a step back and just kind of assessing situations before I acted on them. It definitely was not as aggressive as the beginning portion of my game, but I know for a fact that if I played as aggressive as I did at the beginning, I probably wouldn't be here. I probably would have been one of those Allie or Adam threats that Pat would have wanted to take out. So I knew that I had to do what I needed to do to kind of lower that threat level and just kind of go with the flow. Circumstances aside, it's something that I probably would have done regardless. I have been in this situation before where I've made it deep into the game and I get cut because people think that I'm a threat for the end. So I did so many different things in this game, and one of the things I wanted to do different was to just lower my threat level as much as possible without becoming this blip on the radar. I think I did a really good job of that. I understand your concern, but I also know that anything that I did was methodical. It wasn't just, hi, I'm here, how do I vote? Gotcha, let's do it. So many times I was told what to do with my prisms, and I didn't do it. I did what I wanted to do with them, which was mostly to benefit myself.
All right. Thank you. Pat, yes or no? Actually, not yes or no. Let's do this. Who would you have actually, perfect, your final three, you win again. Who would you have actually wanted sitting next to you in this final two? If you say Robbie, that's fine.
Yeah, no, it would have been Jake. Reason for that is that I think, and I'll be perfectly honest here, I think Robbie stands as good a chance as I do because his social game was better than mine. But I do think that against Jake, I might have stood a bit of a better chance. And just to come full circle to my speech as well, Nick, I wasn't blind to the fact that you were killing it in the missions as well. One of my strongest points of my game, I feel, was the fact that I did so well in the missions. If you were sitting here next to me, I think you would have had as equal a claim to being really good in missions as well, and it would have undercut my best path to win.
That's fair. I didn't mean that, but that was fair. Thank you. So I'm going to just close this out because I don't want to go over on time with one of you discussing. This is my time right now. One of you is going to get your time in a minute. But basically, I just kind of want to close this out by saying, Pat, it's quite obvious, I think, now with myself and with everyone else, and I think everyone should be looking at it. He was and wasn't. So Pat was just a very unloyal, because he had all these connections with people. Pat was a little more unloyal maybe than Robbie was. On the other side of the token, Robbie, while I agree that being a floater, maybe isn't always a bad thing. In your speech, you did mention one of the people that Pat's going to take out. So in that makes me think that you think maybe Pat is a little bit stronger than you and would have been able to make that move where maybe you couldn't have. That's all I got. I don't want a response. That's something for the jury to think about is, kind of what they've said when there's a little bit of extra pressure added. So best of luck, both of you. Congrats on being here. And yeah, can't wait to see what Jake's got to say.
All right, thank you, Nick. And finally, to round it all out, Jake, take the stage.
Hello. All right. So I'm so happy to see you guys here. You guys were the two people that I felt the most connected with all game. Robbie, I've known you from previous games, but this game, it just felt different, and Pat, this was my first time meeting you, so this was kind of cool. See, like, the first part of the game, I had a really hard time finding connections, and that's like really crazy for me. I'm a super social player, and so like when I was having a hard time finding my footing, you two were the ones that made me feel better. So I made the decision to kind of revolve my game around us three, and like listening to kind of everything you guys are saying, it seemed like the three of us kind of had that front where we were all kind of doing what was best for us three, but it seemed like you guys were a little bit more like about yourselves, which is fine. Look, it got you guys, you're here at final two, and that's great. So I was a complete like open book with both of you. Like, you guys knew everything. I was in that group with Adam and Grace. You guys knew about it. Everything that Allie told me, I told you guys, everything, Nick, like I gave you guys a lot. And it's sounding like that maybe you guys didn't really do the best in returning me the same favor. So I'm curious, what plans did you guys make in our group of three that you didn't follow through on? And honesty is going to be more key than trying to like cater to me. So like the round where I went into the chamber early on when Robbie revealed that plan that Bailey and Allie had, and I somehow still ended up in the chamber sort of thing. Like, so if you have anything that you want to say that you didn't follow through on, I'm curious.
So early on, I definitely, the round that you're speaking of, I did follow through with that plan for sure. That was out of, I think, a lot of our controls, which a lot of this game ended up being out of a lot of our controls. But I know for a fact that there were a couple of plans later on in the game, specifically surrounding Nick and trying to get him into the chamber, that I agreed to do with you guys in regards to where I was going to be placing my prisms. And I didn't. I didn't place them on him negatively or positively. I either played them on myself or I kind of just let the chips fall where they may. I did that because I wasn't scared of the chamber. I felt like I had you and Pat to protect me if and when I fell in, which I did a couple of times. So I feel like, although, yes, that might be considered selfish, obviously it's the nature of the game. And it's less outright backstabby, I would say, when it's, I wasn't necessarily putting you in danger. I was more so allowing myself to kind of take the heat. But I felt comfortable enough to do that with the bonds that I had with the two of you, and it worked out. I survived every chamber that I was in. And so that happened at least twice. It was towards the end of the game. Robbie, you're going to give Nick this, you're going to do this. And I said, okay. And then I didn't do it. I didn't do it because I knew what would benefit me more in the long run in that moment.
Okay. Thank you.
As for me, I'm racking my brains here, but I can only think of one time where I didn't follow through on a plan. And that was the plan that we had pre-live night, where our goal was to overload Allie and place pink prisms on her, or pink modifiers on her. I didn't do that for two reasons. The first was that I was talking with Nick. I was aware of the fact that he was doing it, so I didn't feel like I needed to put my prisms on. And at that point, I became a bit more cognizant of my prism spent to earned ratio. And the second thing was, I just didn't really love the idea of spending prisms I didn't have to that late in the game. And I felt confident in our position, and I felt confident in how many people were telling me information, were giving me information that I was privy to, that I didn't feel the need to go above and beyond to make sure it happened.
All right. Yeah. No hard feelings either way. I was just curious because, like I said, you guys were the only two that really gave me the time of day the first half, like the first part of the game, besides Lucas, but, that didn't work out. But, so I'm happy to see you guys here, but I don't really know what's going to happen. Honestly, I think I have an idea, but, I'm still kind of racking in my brain who I want to vote for. So this is going to be interesting. But congrats, you guys. Couldn't ask for a better final two, and I wish both of you the very best of luck.
I just realized I was muted. Thank you, Jake. With that, Patrick, you're going to start off the final speeches, and Robbie's going to round us out for the night. And then after that, we will call for votes. So, Patrick, you have 5 minutes. Your time starts now.
I'll keep this short and simple. Robbie mentioned in his starting speech that he's been playing these a while. He's been around the block. He's never won any. I'm in very much the same boat. I've been playing these since 2009, so closing on 11 years. And I've never won a game that I actually cared about, that I actually put any effort into. This is one that I really tried my best every round to do whatever it took to benefit myself. But also, I want to make it clear that I was not fake with any of my social interactions. You know, if we were talking person to person, I did my best to exclude game from that, because I feel like the major important part of these games is the people we meet. There's no $1 million prize. You know, we're not flying off to Vegas and having a blowout of a party over this. I think that the merit of the games comes from the people you meet, the connections you make. And I feel pretty fortunate to have made some pretty good ones in this game. As far as the contents of my game go, I think the fact that I won a lot of missions, that I was able to overcome adversity thrown at me in the form of journals and in the form of theft in the early rounds, and even in the form of information and misinformation that I was told and sat on. All of that helped me get to where I am now. And I hope that I've done enough and that I've explained my game well enough to earn your jury vote. Thanks.
Thank you, Pat. And now, Robbie, you may begin.
So I feel like a lot of the times when you start a game, you have this mindset of what you want the game to look like for yourself. This looks nothing like what I thought the game would look like for myself at the end. And I couldn't be happier about that. I forced myself out of my comfort zone. I was forced out of my comfort zone. And I allowed myself to do a lot of self-reflection and a lot of kind of soul-searching to figure out how I wanted to try to end this game for myself personally. And regardless of how it ends tonight, I have succeeded in that for myself personally. The win would just be the cherry on top. I have never played a game like this. Kind of hope I never play another game like this, because it's as interesting as it is, there are so many aspects that it was just really hard to grasp, but damn, I did the best I could. I will not be sad if I lose to Pat. I've been in this situation before. I'll be in it again. I'm sure the feeling is mutual. But the fact of the matter is, I'm proud of how I played. If you're proud of how I played, feel free to give me a vote tonight. If not, I love you all anyways. So that's it.
All right. Thank you, Robbie. And with that, the power turns back over to the jury, at least for one section of the finale. As a reminder, there are 3 sections to win this game. One is the jury vote, one is overall popularity, and the final one is prism ratio. Robbie and Pat must win 2 in order to win the game. So at this time, to determine the final section of the finale, jury members, please send in your votes.